The National Prosecuting Authority's Investigating Directorate has recruited former Zondo Commission advocates Paul Pretorius and Matthew Chaskalson on a consulting basis. The two led evidence at the state capture inquiry. They have extensive legal experience, and their appointment is expected to bolster the Directorate's pursuit of corruption cases. We speak now to the organization Undoing Tax Abuses legal head, and that's Stefanie Fick. Stefanie, a very good morning to you. Thanks very much for your time. As excited as many people seem to be about this development?
Good morning, Voyo. I do think so. Again, I think the NPA needs all the boost, and all the factors that will help them in order to, get the state capture prosecutions going. They need all of that. So if that will mean that the people that hopefully by now understand state capture, understand the networks and all of that, I do think that it can only help.
But is there where the problem lies in your assessment of what has and or hasn't happened so far with regard to these cases?
I don't think that that's the only problem. I really think that we can agree that the NPA sort of also went through state capture. I mean, they struggle with resources. The NPA is their success is directly reliable on the police. The police are under-resourced, and I think we don't prioritize what is an extremely important, department. While we are paying more for our blue light brigades than we do pay for law enforcement and the NPA, I'm afraid that, not just state capture, but each and every day our communities are faced with a very high crime rate. That will not be resolved until we prioritize these types of things. But state capture, if I may say, it's not difficult, but you need to understand what they did, what evidence is available, etc., and etc. And I think that's where the two senior advocates may, assist the NPA in not starting where the State Capture Commission started a few years ago, but sort of start where the State Capture Commission ended and take it from there. We have seen that they have struggled for whatever reason. The Estina case has just been removed from the role. Thank goodness we've seen some good news, some assets that were forfeited, or that was taken, and it's in the process with Busasa. But the NPA needs all the help they can get. But
when the Smela Batoys were appointed, everyone knew, in fact, that the problem was that the NPA had been hollowed out. But they were supposed to fix that, weren't they?
Yes. And let's be honest, I think we do feel a bit let down that after, a few years of hopefully they've got their house in order, that we would see more successes. And they have to explain that. I'm not going to sit here and try and explain why we haven't seen the successes that we hope to see. But on the other hand, I can tell you, coming from that space, that there are still people in the NPA, in the police, that only want to do whatever is needed, to firstly combat crime, and then secondly hold people to account, because it's those two legs that the police and the NPA is responsible for. But I do think that getting rid of people is not that easy. You have to go through a process. You need to identify them. And then secondly, I want to reiterate, I do think that they are still under-resourced. I don't think they have the expertise that is needed for them to really tackle, state capture, but more importantly, tackle our high crime rate. And we can sit and criticize the NPA. I think if we look at the police, what are they doing in terms of trying to curb, this trajectory of a high crime rate? And we don't see, what is being done. Visible policing, more policemen, policemen that is, trained in order to deal with intelligence, crime prevention, not just, being reactive, but also being proactive. So yes, I agree with you. There's a lot to be to answer for, but I also think that under the circumstances here and there, we need to celebrate their successes, although that's few and far between.
Well, speaking about, policing, as many people have also been saying, prosecutions are as good as the investigations that would have come before them.
Yes. Yes, unfortunately. A prosecutor will prosecute the facts that was, gathered and the witness statements that were gathered by, the police department. Plus, there's some, experts that we need in the forensic field when it comes to fraud, etc. You need some expertise when you get on a scene where you find computers, etc. You need people that understand how we're going to get the information out of there, etc. And I think that they will hollow it out with, maybe intentionally. There's been a lot of political interference, not, everywhere, but specifically in the police and the NPA. And, it is two departments that really need to be looked at. I think, corruption is evil. And I think we all understand the effects of corruption, our economy, the social stand of our community, the divide, etc. is all, I think, can be laid at the feet of corruption, because it takes out of the fiscus the money we need to uplift our communities, the money we need to do crime prevention, etc., etc. But we are on a better trajectory now, and hopefully we will see the changes. It is going to be hard work, but I think it's high time that we prioritize, our communities that is struggling with crime rate and that are unable to, I want to say, survive on a daily basis because of what's happening in our communities.
Speaking of prioritization, Stefanie, when all has been said and done, do you believe that the NPA has been able to identify strategic trade-offs that would enable it, or at least that would enable South Africans to see it in a different light? In other words, to see that progress is being made, notwithstanding the numerous challenges that they have, and the fact that they are not operating alone or in isolation, but are part of a whole big and unresourced criminal justice system.
So that, unless we solve that problem, it will always be a problem. But I have to say that the NPA and the police has got a big task to convince societies, to convince communities that they're up for the task. So unfortunately, although there's good people out there, there has been successes, I don't think that the success rate is as high as that we have hoped for. So whether we are busy with good things inside of the departments, one do feel that what we can see and what we can feel and talk about has been has not been as great as we've hoped for. So I think the NPA and the SAPS also has got a duty to, instill trust in them yet again. And I don't know if they have done that. That's not something we can help with. They need to get on the ball and show us that they have it in hand. There's a part of me that wants to say sometimes you wonder, you understand the challenges, but you wonder whether they have shown us that we can really, really trust them, that they have got this on our behalf. Because you must remember, the NPA is the sole organization that can prosecute. They are the people that hold people to account. The police, they are there to investigate and do crime prevention. And sometimes I do think that they have a bit to go in order to regain the trust. If you go now to communities who has to look after their own safety, how many of us still, trust that when you go to the police, a case will be investigated, and maybe sometimes you feel that it will cost you more to lay a complaint, and that's why we have, communities taking certain things into their own hands. Now, one can't shout from the rooftop that is the right thing to do, but I don't think communities have got a choice. So I do think except that in my heart of hearts, I want to say that they've got this. I don't think they've shown us that they've got this.
Well, with many people opting for private prosecution these days, could that be a sign, perhaps, that people are beginning to give up on the NPA?
Yes, and that's a tragedy. Like I said, there are really some people that's doing an excellent job. And I feel sorry for them. It's like, you know, when we talked about the public protector and the you know, the whole history that those people went through is there are people that just want to do what they do in life, and that is what they are proud of doing. But yeah, private prosecutions is going to be on the rise, but private prosecutions is also not, you know, the begin all and end all of everything. It should be. Firstly, the NPA is responsible for prosecutions. But then looking at what sometimes happen with cases is that people and private prosecutors do not have a choice but to say, but then give it to me, let me do it, because people need to be held accountable.
But perhaps not to be too harsh to the NPA, or not to hold them solely responsible for this, even though, as you correctly pointed out, they are responsible for prosecutions. Could it be that people opting to go the route of private prosecutions, could it also mean a declining trust in the entire criminal justice system?
Unfortunately, and that's a sad day. I don't think we have reached the stage where, you know, I would throw in the towel, but I do think that if you see, you know, what communities do in order to keep themselves safe. You know, security companies, some communities do not have the luxury to pay for security companies, but they come together and they try to keep themselves safe. The high fences in South Africa, and that is all due to, you know, our high crime rate. And then private prosecutions, when it comes to prosecutions, that is just not happening. And all of that is a sign that, you know, South Africans are losing trust. And before we get to a space where everyone takes the law onto their own hands, I really think that, and not just the NPA, I think government needs to relook at their priorities and prioritize. And unfortunately, there's so many. There's really so many. We have a water crisis, we have an electricity crisis, we have a crime crisis. But I think if we reprioritize what is important, that I think we can, you know, we can get the scar through the mud and the drift and get it out on the other side.
But are there signs that the government is indeed alive to the reality you've just described?
I think they have life to it. And because I mean, you literally have to be, you know, coming from another planet not to understand that this is a problem. I do think that government is struggling with the fact that we do not have enough money due to corruption. The fact that it's like a bucket full of water, and if you have too many holes in it, you know, the water just flows out, and doesn't matter how many water you put in that bucket, you're going to lose. So we need to stop corruption. We need to stop the leak in order to then take that money and spend it on the areas we need. So although it is the leadership, they've taken on that job, and it's leadership that must say, this is what we need, this is what we need to do, and how are we going to help the trust in our organizations. But on the other hand, I think it is also a broader duty on government to make sure that we get rid of corruption, get rid of political interference, and get to the task at hand.